Item 9, administrative presentation of the proposed Calcasieu Parish Police Jury Strategic Plan 2019 through 2022. Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are very pleased tonight to present you with what is the culmination of 10 months of very intense work by you, the staff, and great input from the public on your formal strategic plan document. Tonight, what I want to do in a short presentation is just hit the highlights, but each of you have in front of you the actual document that we call the strategic plan, and inserted in that is the presentation slides, which serve as a good summary if you want to just hit the high points later, so we want to make sure you know you have that. There's so many people to thank, all the department heads and several employees. Your input was so important earlier in the year. This is a very lengthy process. And I also want to thank Emergent Method, who is our consultant on this. They ushered this through the whole way. John Snow is here with them tonight. He and Seth Irby did a fantastic job, and they specialize in so many things, but public engagement is one of their specialties, and this document will reflect that. So I want to go through this, certainly take any questions you have, but I'll go ahead and try to fill in some blanks here. Quick background, as I said, we've been actually working on this a little earlier than March, actually, but for 10 full months. And it's a very defined process, which takes time, but it's worth the time. And the idea of a strategic plan in simple terms is simply to build on what parish government's role should be in the community, one especially that is growing, and looking not just at the current year, but future years. The idea is to establish a clear vision, a strategic set of strategic priorities, and I'll go through each of those briefly. For the coming years, in this case, we felt like 3-year period is a good one to focus on. And a good analogy, I would say, is as far as what a strategic plan is and what it does, it's like a road map. It's very helpful to know where you're going if you're going on a trip. And Dane and Alberto are probably smiling now because they laugh when I pull out an actual hard copy road map and we go somewhere, even though nobody else uses them. This is a hard copy map, Dane, by the way. If you like it online, you can see it there too. It's worth going just for a minute on the process. Anything that is worth doing, you want to say, well, how did you come up with this document? So very briefly, as I mentioned, a lot of input, internal and external. That means employees as well as citizens and groups, many other groups. Organizations that do strategic plans, of which there are many, it's very common to do what's called a SWOT analysis. You look at where your strengths are, where are your weaknesses that you need to develop, look ahead at what are some opportunities we can take advantage of, but also what are the threats. And that was all done early in the process. We now are proposing in this document a new mission statement for the police jury, a vision statement, and values, or what are commonly called core values in a document like this, and I'll go through those briefly. You established as a jury 6 overarching strategic priorities. What that means is these are broader focus areas, supported by many more detailed goals that departments have come up with, but following your lead in what the 6 general areas are, and I'll go through each of those. The department's established over 100 goals to align with those, and that's a very good list. Just throw out a few key numbers here. An unbelievable survey response from employees, 479 anonymously provided employee responses. And so we got some real honest feedback, very good. 714 citizen surveys. When you look at sampling, this is an excellent response rate, and it covered all areas of the parish. We were very happy and pleased that the public decided to turn those in. In addition to that, John, our consultants, Seth met because they wanted to get honest feedback with over 30 groups, several community leaders, groups in the community that are very civically active, and we wanted to sit with them face to face in addition to the surveys. All the department heads and their leadership teams, all of you as jurors, and then again out of that came 106 defined strategic goals that are all in the document in front of you. So these are ones we need to go through, and I do want to read these out loud because they are important. They set the tone and the future goals. The mission statement, which we got a really good group of jurors and staff combined in a special session just for this purpose, for the mission statement, vision, and core values. So let me read the mission statement first that came out of those. Provide the people of Calcasieu Parish with high-quality services and actions that benefit present and future generations throughout Southwest Louisiana. Important to hit some key themes here. High quality, that's self-explanatory, but it was important to put in there. The jurors are really adamant about that. Not only that, it's this idea that you're looking at what's important today, but what's important tomorrow. I know it's kind of a cliche, but it's the children, their children, and their children. This is generational. And what I really love that came out of here is not just for Calcasieu Parish. Everybody recognized that Calcasieu is the hub of Southwest Louisiana, and what happens here will influence greatly, good or bad, the surrounding parishes. And they were very adamant. Many of the jurors said, look, let's put Southwest Louisiana in there because what happens here influences that. I think it's a very good mission statement, and it captures the essence of what you're trying to accomplish here. So let's go to the vision. What is the difference? What do we mean vision versus mission? Mission is a very definitive black and white statement that lays it out. A vision is more of a dream, if you will, a condition, not a pipe dream, but if you can envision somebody 20 years from now who comes to Calcasieu from another place and to see what are we like, what is it you would want to be able to say, here's who we are. That's what a vision is. And in the vision statement prepared here, Calcasieu will serve as a model parish for Louisiana, an area with excellent quality of life where citizens want to raise their families and the infrastructure to position the parish for growth in the years to come. That's a little lengthier than the mission statement by design. You want to emphasize those things that you feel this area you want to reflect. And it's good to look ahead. It's okay if we're not currently the model parish in Louisiana. I think we are. I think this jury is a model in many areas, but we want to be in more. Quality of life, there's a lot of good quality of life here. Y'all have emphasized we need to keep working on that. And infrastructure is kind of a pedestrian word. It's, what does that mean? But you need those fundamental things like roads, bridges, and drainage and so forth. Last but certainly not least, those core values where a mission statement and a vision talks about the what. What do you want to do? What is important? What do we want to be? Your core values say who you are. Okay, when you talk about the police jury, what do you want people to say? And it's a set of core values. You don't want 20 of those up there. We narrowed it down to 4, and these are the ones. I think they're very representative of what you as jurors electeds, we on the staff, see ourselves as. You're an agency that has vision. This is not new. The whole idea of doing a strategic plan, a 3-year road plan if you're in Tim Connor's shop, looking ahead financially or in any area. Vision is important. Collaboration. That is no small thing. We can't do this alone. We need other agencies. We need the private sector. We need the nonprofit sector. We need the faith-based sector, and they need y'all. This is important, especially with dwindling reserves, the state's financial situation, and so forth. Dependability is the third one. You might say, well, okay, that sounds nice. Is that really that big a word? Absolutely, that's a big word. It's not a glamorous word. But think about when you say, if you decide, I know it sounds a little funny, but hey, that lawnmower is dependable. That person is dependable. When they think of the jury, we think they do now, and we want to keep thinking, they are dependable. They know what they're doing. They do it consistently, and they do it well. I think that's important. Last but not least, y'all emphasize financial stewardship specifically. It's a very privileged thing, I think, when a set of citizens, the majority of the voters who vote on things such as taxes, they're saying, we are trusting you, elected officials and those that work for you, with our resources We're asking you to handle them well. As recent as the last meeting, y'all talked about this. The police jury has a history of sound financial management. It's good to write that down because that's what we should be doing. And so I know I'm taking a little time on these, but these are very important because it drives all of the more detailed things. But these are all in the document. All right, let's dig down a little. I don't have that many more slides. So what's the framework as we get into some of the meat and potatoes of this document? The question we are answering, I put on that slide. So what is it the police jury needs to do over the next 3 years to improve Calcasieu Parish for current and future residents? So when you answer that, you want to take it from the broad to the detailed. So as I said, you have 6 strategic priorities you defined, and we will get into those shortly. Everything else comes from that. All the detail ties into that. Each priority is supported by what we call performance metrics. That's a fancy term. It's also called performance measures. It means, okay, guys, you got these areas, focus areas, you got goals. How do you know if you're achieving the goals? That's what performance measures are for. We have some in the document. We will continue to build that as time goes on. So, what are your 6 priority areas in this document that drives everything else? Number 1, and by the way, these are not in a rank. It's not like they're all equally important. So number 1 is no more or less important than number 2. They're all the 6 that y'all landed on. Greater efficiencies in resources. A fundamental thing you want is that for the resources there, let's make sure we're being efficient. We all know what that means. There's a limited number of resources, let's be efficient. That means don't try to avoid duplication too as much as possible. Responsiveness is in that same priority. That means you're listening to the people all along the way. Don't just go out without getting input. That's number 1. Strategic priority 2, long-term infrastructure needs. Again, when we say infrastructure, roads, bridges, drainage, utilities such as sewage, that is front and center for what, frankly, all government levels do, but local government, which is nearest to the people, especially in a growth period, infrastructure is one of those things that you take for granted if it's going well. When you got congestion and flooding and sewer backing up, that's when people go, hey, we got to do better. Well, we're being challenged, not just us, every entity. So that's why y'all made this a focus. Number 3, parish-wide drainage needs and improvements. Build upon those. This is how important number 3 is. You actually covered number 3 and number 2, technically. But y'all said drainage is so important because the people are saying it needs its own priority. And I'm really glad because it is. We're still, as you know, we're in the middle of a 4 or 5 year multi-phase study that's had a lot of progress, a lot of success and progress, but we still have more to go. So I'm glad you put that as a separate one by itself. Okay, the last 3. Parish-wide development through standards. A recognition you can't just, this isn't 50 years ago where hardly anybody lived outside of cities. You don't need a lot of rules. You got to be careful with rules. You don't want too many. You don't want them being too burdensome. But you have to have standards, especially for development, where you're managing the growth. It doesn't manage you. And y'all, I think, have done a great job with that. What I really like about this one is y'all said, look, don't just say general either. We got urban, we got suburban, we have rural in areas in this parish, and they're different. And let's make sure we pay attention to that. Number 5, strong quality of life. I venture to say, other than drainage, this phrase came up more than anything else in all the engagement we got from the elected officials, employees, citizens, business, everybody. We're growing, and we're going to have a lot of people moving here, and we're saying, guys, you need the roads and bridges and all that, but you also have to think, what else do you need? Whether it's education, it may be cultural opportunities, it may be entertainment opportunities. Frankly, going to number 6, and I'll segue, things like you need to reduce litter. It's a blight on us. It's a stain. And strong wording from y'all that we need to put litter and pollution in general, water quality, as an emphasis. You can see there's a lot of connection between these. Number 5 and 6 have a lot of connection. So again, we can go certainly more detail if you like, but that's everything in this document comes off of these 6 priority areas. Very briefly, the department leaders have taken all those goals, or excuse me, priority areas, developed their own goals, performance measures, and came up with 106 goals which cover the waterfront. Obviously, I'm not expecting y'all to read this print size, but it's a good illustration of what's in the document. The top left, there's a lot of matrix tables, charts in there for every priority area. Now, very quickly, along the left are all the goals, the detailed goals. Across the top, hard to read, that's all the departments. I really want to hand it to Emergent Method on this. They take goals which involve, we may have 5 departments involved in some version of one of those goals y'all have. This says who all should be involved, which departments, and not only that, one step further, who should be the lead. You'll notice there's a bunch of S's and then an L's, that's support or lead. So everybody's accountable, every department, every group of departments, and the employees in those departments. On the right is simply for each department, it's an example of how it looks for them. So everybody's got a really good roadmap, as we said earlier. I debated putting this in and thought, okay, just if you want to know, what do you mean? Y'all really putting performance measures in there? This is about 40 of the total. There's a lot more. But you can kind of browse it and see yourself later when you have time. This is when you say accountability, this is what we mean. So, I feel like I went through that pretty quickly, but I want to hit the high points. What are we seeing going forward? Well, on a basic calendar thing, tonight we're not asking for action. We do want you to take this with you, but it's got all the input and the work from departments. We are asking that it be on your January 3rd agenda for approval, and we can hit the ground running. It becomes the official document for the parish for strategic planning. It's important to emphasize we call this a living plan. What does that mean? We're not going to change the 6 priority areas. That's something you can do in the future, but you got to be flexible in how you might accomplish that. Whether it's economics or state law that may change, you never know, but the great thing about this plan is it allows flexibility while keeping an eye on the goals. Number 3, tonight you passed your budget a few minutes ago for 2019. We actually, in that budget, had a strong focus knowing that these goals were in the document, so it's already started. But in every year, when Tammy starts that process, of course, those resources, where should they be going? Well, what are our goals? What are you saying is important? So that's what we'll do. Very important at the bottom there, public accountability is embedded throughout this process. This will be posted on the website. Actually, tonight it'll probably be on there, but year-round, our goal, and we're going to do it, anybody can go at any time, look at those goals, and we will periodically update it with progress. And this is something we've got to kind of move into. We haven't started that yet, but we will. So that is about as quick as I can go through what is a 10-month process. It was very well done. I'm very proud of all the staff and very appreciative of all of you. You really embraced this, and that is no small thing. So I appreciate that. I just put this up here at the end. I'm not going to read through it again, but this is what we want to be, and it will drive everything else. So with that, I'm finished. It's, as I mentioned, if you go to our website, it's actually going to be under that URL, and it'll be very easy to find, and we want people to go take a look at it as early as tomorrow. Certainly, if you have any questions or comments, I'm here. If not, again, we'll ask you, please don't leave it here. Take it with you, and we'll have it on your agenda for in a couple of weeks on January 3rd.